Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer are blasting China's move to curb exports of rare earth minerals, calling that action a threat to the global supply chain. Joining us right now for the latest is Michael Silver, the CEO and chairman of American Elements. That is a private U.S.-based company that distributes advanced materials, including rare earths. And Michael, thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure.
Let's talk a little bit about what you do. You're not somebody who's actually mining for these rare earths. You are someone who is a distributor. What has the global supply chain looked like over the last recent months? What's been more difficult?
Well, we're actually manufacturers. One of the sales guys in the company said we have 1 foot in the mine and 1 foot in the cell phone. So we're processing what comes out of the mine to produce the materials that a company can use to make things. And this process actually on the export licenses began on April 4th. They restricted 7 of the rare earth materials. They just added another 5 about a week ago. And it's very different from the past because what they're doing now is restricting just the rare earths. There's a handful of them that are critical to both commercial technology as well as military technology that really account for no more than 1% of a rare earth deposit. The bulk of rare earths, cerium, lanthanum, neodymium, that make up to 90% of a deposit are unrestricted. So this is kind of unique, and it may reflect a desire to hold on to these materials themselves over the long term. And it's going to create some issues, I think, for the U.S. government. Yes.
I mean, on the one hand, it looks like they are doing this because they're trying to put pressure on the Trump administration for tariffs or for restrictions of semiconductor chips. On the other hand, if this stuff is that rare and we had a hold of it, would we be willing to share it either?
Exactly. Well, and their military applications. So you can imagine, Deng Xiaoping said decades ago, the Middle East has oil, we have rare earths. They view it as a national treasure. And the thought of somebody using their rare earths to cause them, defense issues and military issues, you can understand where they're coming from. I appreciate it. But there's a lot of things they can do, and they've done many, many very clever things in the past. And the one that we're concerned about, at least from the U.S. government's standpoint, is they reduce the price of cerium and lanthanum and neodymium and praseodymium, which is the bulk of the rare earth deposit, to a very, very low number. And then they maybe even discontinue selling things like dysprosium and terbium, the ones that are very rare and are used in military applications. Because the result of that is all these new mines that are trying to be funded right now, you've got some of them listed on your screen, are going to have some real difficulties because they're going to be operating in a negative. Right. Even Mountain Pass, an old mine, may find itself in the negative. And that would require U.S. government subsidy to maintain that mine in operation.
That's devious.
Well, it is, but it's the reality of a national defense system. Michael, you've met with the Trump administration. What have you told them?
This came up, this potential issue. We did an advisory letter it's a confidential letter we do to our customers, where we advise them of this concern. And I think the government has to be prepared to be in a position to subsidize the Mountain Pass mine in order to get the terbium and dysprosium and scandium and yttrium, these ones that are essential for military technology, for guidance systems, for lasers, many of the technologies. And they are the rare earths. And China may just decide not to sell them at all in order to maintain their own, military footing.
We had a guest yesterday who said that part of the problem is for the heavy rare earths, we just don't have them geologically in the United States. For the rare earths that you're talking about, do we have deposits of them?
Sometimes they're referred to as the heavies. See, what China has is they have 2 deposits. They have the bastnaesite ore in the north, which is more typical. It's very similar to what we have at Mountain Pass. But then they've got these ionic clays in the south that are loaded up with the heavies, and we don't have those ionic clays. So they're in a very, very good position on the heavies. However, Mountain Pass produces heavies. Mount Weld, which is Linus's mine in Australia, produces some heavies. And if you just apply those to military applications, which I think is what the government's going to eventually do, they're sufficient volume in the United States to support a military application. But again, what could happen is that cerium and lanthanum and neodymium could go down to a very low number, and Mountain Pass won't be able to operate profitably. And the new mines that everyone's trying to fund right now, they will definitely not be able to open profitably if they do this.
So I'm just trying to figure out what this means. If you think that there is enough there for our defense capabilities, what other applications are going to get shut out? What companies are going to get shut out? What's the fallout?
Well, it's going to have an impact on electric cars because there's dysprosium in the neodymium iron boron magnet, which is critical to electric cars. Laser technology. There's going to be quite a lot of commercial technology that's going to be burdened by this.
Meaning that EV growth is going to be even harder than we already are learning?
Correct. It depends. Again, this is just something you try to project what could happen. And China's done some very, very clever, I won't go to all the historical things since 2008. They've done some extremely clever things with pricing. Occasionally they raise them up because they want something to happen. Sometimes they drop them next to nothing. There was one time when what they did was they made them extremely low in China and higher outside of China in order to encourage companies like General Electric to move their plants to China. And that was the WTO action in 2012 that they lost, because they had this price differential and the WTO said, you can't do that. So they've used a lot of methods, and you got to anticipate creativity on their part.
Wasn't it that they were dumping rare earth metals back in 2002 that caused the Mountain Pass mine to shut down to begin with?
Well, dumping, they just drop the prices. They don't have to dump.
That's right.
They have a
That's what I mean.
monopoly.
They're dropping prices so much that it no longer makes it commercially viable in a capitalist system.
When you have 50% of a deposit in your boundary, because that's just the way plate tectonics happen to work out for you, you have control over the pricing on that material. If your prices go to the moon, everyone's going to follow, right? Shareholders would have an uproar if they didn't follow. If they go down below your cost structure, you better find a way to get there. So they completely control pricing.
Does this entire industry need to be nationalized? Your shop included?
I would say, like I said, we've got some deposits in Wyoming that should be mined. They're excellent deposits. We have Alaska, the UCOR site. Who knows where Greenland's going to go? I think those have to be treated as national priorities, and there will be government involvement, some government subsidies. In essence, Mountain Pass has been nationalized because the U.S. government now owns a majority share in it. So I think there's a trend towards sovereign control over these materials, but I don't know if the mines will actually be national.